Good morning, everyone. Welcome to You Don't Know Ball. Today, I'm going to be grading every first-round pick from the NFL draft last night. I would have done this video with Dobbs. Our schedules didn't line up today. I'm in the process of moving. I'll be in my new place tomorrow, so we should be a little bit more on board there. And yeah, so we'll have our full draft grades after the full draft is completed. If you don't know ball, want to know ball, be sure to subscribe, leave a like. Let me know in the comments your favorite and least favorite pick from the NFL draft. And let's get right into it. Caleb Williams with the Chicago Bears. That is an A+, guys. A+ because, one, he is the consensus number one player. If you're picking number one and there's multiple quarterbacks on the board, I personally, I'm not a GM, I'm a guy in my bedroom, but I don't want to be wrong on the guy that is not consensus. If there is a consensus number one pick, do not try to be the smartest guy in the room. You take him. Caleb Williams is placed into possibly one of the best scenarios ever for a quarterback taken number one overall. They were a 7-10 team last year. They now have Rome Odunze, who will get there, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, Gerald Everett, DeAndre Swift, and Khalil Herbert. Their line is not that bad, and they have a new play caller in Shane Waldron, who has worked with multiple quarterbacks. He's worked with Caleb Williams before. So I think this is a slam dunk pick for the Chicago Bears, a franchise who has never really ever had their franchise quarterback. And Caleb Williams may have the best rookie season ever for a Chicago Bears quarterback. He may be the first ever Chicago Bears quarterback to throw for 30 touchdowns, and he may be the first Chicago Bears quarterback ever to throw for 4,000 yards in his first season. Are those lofty goals? Yes. And am I expecting them? No. But there is a possibility that he can break those records realistically for the Chicago Bears. Number 2, we have Jaden Daniels with a B. Now, I am a little bit lower on Jaden Daniels than the consensus, and here's why. I just don't think what he did at the college game is going to translate well to the NFL. And I could be wrong, but if you look at it from the Commanders' perspective and what they want to do, I'm assuming the Commanders want to put a winning product out there right away. And I know they're not going to be an amazing team next year, but they should be decent. They should be okay. And Jaden Daniels allows you to do that. Whereas, like, if you were to take a Drake May or you would take a J.J. McCarthy, like, you're waiting a year in order for that to happen. Now, Jaden Daniels has help with Terry McLaurin and Austin Eckler, Jahan Dotson, however you feel about him. I just struggle with their tackle situation. I thought they were a team that would probably trade up into the first round and the first round try to get one with their 2 second-round picks, but it seems like they're pretty content on picking at 36 and 40. I do think Jaden Daniels can be a good NFL player. I just think he needs to win from the pocket a little bit more. Definitely deserving of a number 2 pick. I'm interested to see how Commanders fans feel about this pick ever since, they've kind of known he would be the pick for the last 2 weeks now. I think he can be a good player. I just don't think long-term this was the right pick. I think Drake May could have been the right pick, but who knows? We don't know. We have a lot to discuss later at number 8, and that was a lot more confusing than what the Commanders did at 2. Number 3, we have the New England Patriots taking Drake May. So I also have a B for this. And the reason I have a B is not because of the pick or the player. I think it is because there are a couple scenarios that could have played out here. I think Drake May should have been QB2 in this draft. But he does need to sit a year, so that does kind of take away from his value, in my opinion. But if you get the right franchise guy, it really doesn't matter how long he sits, right? The Patriots are not going to be good this year. Get another high pick next year and just get as much talent on the team as you can. So I think this pick is a B because if you try to play Drake May before he's ready and don't give him time to develop, you're throwing him into the wolves and is going to critically hinder his development. Because if you remember right, I mean, this pass catching group and this offensive line group is the same group that got Bill Belichick fired and Mac Jones traded. So I would hope they wouldn't put Drake May into that situation right away. I really hope they don't, but I could see with Robert Kraft doing that. Now, if you're able to bolster the O-line and get more pass catchers, Drake May is a slam dunk pick here at pick 3. I think the lack of play calling experience on the offense scares me a little bit. I think the new head coach scares me a little bit. But overall, if they are able to get the right people in the building on the offensive personnel side and develop Drake May in the right way, the Patriots very well could have found their next franchise quarterback. And one last thing on the Patriots, another reason why I was a B is I think they also could have benefited from trading out and getting a haul. But like I said, if you get your franchise quarterback, that is the haul. No amount of first round picks will matter if you have your quarterback. Number 4 to the Arizona Cardinals, taking Marvin Harrison Jr. I have this as an A+, another consensus pick. Don't get too cute. Just take the guy. You're giving Kyler Murray a weapon, wide receiver 1. They can work in that offense. Marvin Harrison Jr. Was touted as generational. I don't think he's that too far away from the other prospects in the class. He's closer to the Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze. I think Malik Neighbors is a little bit closer to Marv than Rome. But overall, Marv is a great prospect. And, you could trade out and get a haul. I don't know how they had their wide receivers graded in the draft room. But Marvin Harrison Jr. is a great pick for the Cardinals. Another consensus, don't be the smartest guy in the room pick where it's like, you take this guy, you're getting blue chip talent, and that's what you need in order to win football games. I don't really want to spend much time on this because there's not really much to say. Him and Kyler Murray are going to eat next year. At number 5, we have the Los Angeles Chargers taking Joe Alt. So I have this as an A, and it would be an A+ if my concern about moving him to right tackle wasn't there. He's an athlete, right? And he can play a lot of positions. He's only been playing offensive tackle for, I want to say 3 years, because he played lacrosse in high school, very big athlete, and no, wait, Graham Barton played lacrosse in high school. My apologies. I'm getting screwed up. Long night and early morning. But with that being said, no. Joe Alt, I think if you can find a place for him on the right side and you want to play the brand of football that Jim Harbaugh does, this is the pick. Joe Alt is the best lineman in the class. If he makes that transition over to right tackle seamlessly, then you have Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt, possibly 2 all-pro tackles for the next 10 years. And regardless if you're running the ball, throwing the ball, this is a great pick for the Chargers and Justin Herbert. With that being said, the move over is very scary because it's just like, if he doesn't make that transition, and you could have taken a right tackle, like a true right tackle, like a J.C. Latham, and traded back a little bit, I do think that could have been beneficial. But at the same time, it's another one of those picks where it's like, he's so good. Do you believe that he can move it to the right side? And I think he does. He scares me a little bit more in terms of versatility from side to side than other prospects, say a Troy Fautanu or Marius Mims. But the floor and ceiling you're going to get out of Joe Alt is just unmatchable. So great pick for the Los Angeles Chargers. At number 6, we have the New York Giants taking Malik Neighbors. I think it was always Malik, unless Drake May was available. They put out a smokescreen a couple years ago that they didn't like the way Kayvon Thibodeau interviewed. I was seeing a couple smokescreens that the Giants wanted to avoid, kind of a diva receiver, Kadarius Toney, OBJ. And I don't think Neighbors is necessarily a diva receiver, but he's definitely more of a character than Romo Dunze. But you are giving Daniel Jones or whoever is going to be your quarterback for the foreseeable future a certified wide receiver 1. And I think that's what's so crazy about this wide receiver group, Rome, Malik, and Marvin Harrison Jr., is they would all be wide receiver 1s, the first wide receiver taken off the board in a lot of years in the draft. And they just stacked up pretty well for the NFL teams that took them. So, like I said, I'm going to give it an A. He has that explosiveness. He has that alpha in him where it's just like he wants to win every single rep. He's so damn fast, so damn explosive. Great pick for the New York Giants, who honestly had probably some of the worst wide receiver depth in the NFL at that position and really haven't been working, and especially Darren Waller possibly retiring. This was a home run pick. At number 7, to the Tennessee Titans. We have J.C. Latham. I gave him a B+. I think Latham is a great pick. The fact that he can play guard and right tackle is amazing. He's the strongest player in the draft. Some teams maybe had him over Joe Alt. The reason I have him as a B+ is because I think they maybe could have traded back and got some draft capital and still got him. Like, I think maybe the Vikings or the Broncos were willing to trade up and go and get their guy. Obviously, we always saw the Vikings move one spot, but with that being said, I do think they could have traded back and got some capital. So, now you have Cushenberry, you have Peter Skronsky, and you have J.C. Latham. Whether you play him at tackle or guard, I believe they're going to play him at tackle. They have some tackle issues there. You have versatility, and that's the best part is if he doesn't work out as guard, God forbid he doesn't work out as guard, you have the interior of your O-line for the next 5 years. Like, this is a great pick for the Titans. The way they are building this team, I was a little bit critical of them in the offseason for their free agency, but I get their pick, and I'm very interested to see what they do on day 2. If they still target maybe a guard, or if they target, even another tackle, or I think I could see them going edge with their second pick, possibly even adding a receiver. But overall, B+. I think it could be even an A-, honestly. Not a lot of low draft picks or low draft grades for this. At number 8, we have the Atlanta Falcons taking Michael Penix Jr. What the actual fuck? This is a D-. I understand what Terry Fontenot said. The fact that they looked at the Green Bay model, but there are some stark differences between the Green Bay model and what the Falcons did here. So, for example, they took Jordan Love in the 20s, and Aaron Rodgers was kind of on the way out. Michael Penix Jr. was taken number 8 overall, a very, very valuable pick who could have been used to improve the team immediately, like a Byron Murphy. And my opinion is, if you have Kirk Cousins, who you just gave $160 million, $180 million, why would you not use the pick to improve the team to try to win? And also, I think the age stuff is a bit overblown with Penix. He'll be 24 in May. I think it is kind of upsetting that he probably won't start until he's 27, 28 even, if Kirk plays out his deal. But at the end of the day, it's just like, okay, let's say he sits for 4 or 5 years. Okay, you may want to re-sign him, right? What if he doesn't want to re-sign with you? Like, what if he does not want to play? Like, what if he wants to go somewhere else? And that's a possibility. They could have had the best defensive player on the board. They could have taken fucking Romo Dunze. Like, they could have done anything except take a quarterback who's 24 and had two ACL tears. I think universally, this is one of the most confusing picks in the draft. And I will say this. A lot of the picks in the first round made sense. They made sense and were good picks. Like, the only other pick I didn't really love was at the end of the draft, and I didn't really have an issue with it. So this is the only pick I really have a problem with. And if I'm Arthur Blank, I don't know how you sign off on this, because Terry Fontenot was the GM when Arthur Smith was hired and fired. And now you bring in a new coach, and the argument was they didn't get the quarterback right after Matt Ryan left. So why the fuck did they take a quarterback now when they just signed somebody who was a top 10, top 12 quarterback? It makes zero sense to me because of the fact of who the prospect is. You could have sold this to me better if it was a J.J. McCarthy. Falcons, man, I am sorry. I don't know what the fuck. They were taking perks. They were sipping fucking Tito's up in that draft room. Like, what the fuck? Number 9, to the Chicago Bears, Romo Dunze. A. Anyone who took Romo Dunze or any of these 3 receivers got a high grade, guys. Bears bias aside, he is just I think one of the safer picks in this draft. I love the way he carries himself. He's definitely like NFL personality ready. And this is kind of like embodies what the Bears look for in a player, the way he talks. And he was a Bears fan. They want guys who want to be here. And to give Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen is kind of fucking nuts. Like, it is kind of insane. It's kind of crazy. Rome, to be able to come here and develop a relationship of chemistry with Caleb Williams is just one of the best ideas that the Bears have had. Like, I don't even want to say it's an idea, and I don't even want to give them credit for it, because it's just one of those picks where it's like, dude, he's available to you at 9. Fucking take him. Like, just fucking take this guy. And I think, as Bears fans, I think I can say this. This front office, for the most part, there has been some questionable decisions, but for the most part, everyone is just like, they make the common sense pick. Like, they don't try to be the smartest guy in the room all the time. Like, when they get into the later rounds, they get a little bit more iffy, because it's like they're trying to take shots on their guys, which I get. Every team does it. But, like, their first-round picks have made a lot of sense. And with their pick last year with Darnell Wright, it's like, okay, yeah. But back to Rome. Rome is just one of those players that it's like, you watch him, and he's just so good as a contested catch guy. And with Keenan Allen only being here 1 year, I think he is the succession plan, and they have Rome and DJ Moore, which are such good complements to each other. And I don't completely put them out of the running for another receiver later this year, or I think they might go receiver next year as well. Number 10, J.J. McCarthy to the Minnesota Vikings, who traded up. I'm going to go B+. Honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of McCarthy, but I will say this. If he was going to go anywhere, the Vikings are the best landing spot. Kevin O'Connell, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, Aaron Jones, good O-line. They put this man in a position to succeed. If they sit him for a whole year, I think that's really the best play here. Because, in my opinion, McCarthy's very, very raw. He's also very young. And, like, you're not winning the division this year. Like, you can try, but, like, I don't think you're winning, and you benefit from possibly just having another high draft pick this year. Like, this team is already really fucking talented. Like, them being not great last year benefited them so well. And I will say I have been a little bit questionable on Adolfo Mensa's picks, but this pick was great. The way they set up, like, getting the 2 first-round picks was so good. And J.J. McCarthy, if he develops into be the player you think he can be, the NFC North is going to be loaded with quarterback talent for a long time. And you could make the argument that Jared Goff might be the worst quarterback in the division. And Jared Goff is a pretty fucking good quarterback. So, overall, I think the Vikings got their quarterback of the future. I do think this was a great pick for them. And the fact that they did not trade an arm and a leg to get up was an amazing, amazing pick by the Minnesota Vikings. At number 11, we have the New York Jets taking Olu Fashanu. I have this as an A pick. I think Olu has been one of those guys who was kind of a top 10 pick this whole time, but just as the draft process kind of got passed over, because he could have been the top tackle possibly last year as well, one of the top tackles. So I think this is interesting with the Jets passing up on Brock Bowers. I think it was the right move. Don't get me wrong. I think this was the right move. Because if you look at the Jets, okay, they have had O-line troubles for quite a while, and they almost take turns getting hurt. So taking a guy in Olu Fashanu who doesn't have to play right away, he can learn from Tyron Smith. He can learn from Morgan Moses. Like, this is a guy who needs to get better in the run game, but is a phenomenal pass protector. I think the Jets have sold out. I don't want to say sold out, but they have sold a lot of their future in order to get, not a ton, but they have sold a lot of their future to get the talent now to win the Super Bowl in the next 2 years, that I feel like this is the first pick in quite a while where it's like a future pick. Like, this is a pick that is good for now, and it's good for later. So I think this is an A pick by the New York Jets. Honestly, I think their line, with the way it's set up, I think they could have benefited from a Choi Fautanu or Grant Barton where they get a little bit more versatility, where they can play all 5 spots. But still, you get a franchise left tackle at 11. Not complaining there. Number 12, to the Denver Broncos, we have Bo Nix. So I have this as a B- because I don't think Nix is necessarily worth the 12th overall pick. I think he was definitely a first-round talent. Do I think he should have went in the first round? No. But with the way that the board fell, 6 quarterbacks in the first 12, like, that's unheard of. Like, 50% of the picks were quarterbacks. You don't have a second-round pick. The Raiders are also quarterback needy, and they're picking right next to you, and they're also a division rival. Are you going to let your division rival take a quarterback when they know you need one and be stuck with Zach Wilson and Jarrett Stidham? I just think with the way the draft board fell, there was absolutely zero chance that Nix was not the pick here. So I don't want to harp on it. I just think for the value, it is not great. I do like Nix though. I do think if Nix is going to succeed, it was in the Minnesota or the Denver offense. So I believe in Sean Payton. I know what he can do with quarterbacks. We saw what he did with Drew Brees. I don't want to compare Bo Nix and Drew Brees, but they have kind of similar play styles. So I think this could be a great pick for Denver, who has been quarterback starved for quite a while. Would I have liked him in the 20s a little bit more? Yes, but I'm not going to kill him. B- overall, more for value, less about the player. So, decent pick. At number 13, we have the Las Vegas Raiders, who kind of surprised everybody with Brock Bowers. I am going to go B+ here. And the reason I'm going B+ is because Brock Bowers truly is one of the best players in the draft. I just think it is a little bit of a surprise, the fact that they took another tight end. They took Michael Mayer last year. But if they want to add to the receiving room, Davante Adams is getting older. They have Jacoby Myers, and Bowers can play in the slot, and he's not the same type of tight end that Mayer is. You can still have Mayer block and just send Bowers to be your receiver. Do I question it a little bit in the Luke Getsy offense? Yeah, I don't know. I'm interested to see what happens. Not a big fan of Getsy. Obviously, don't think he did great things in Chicago, but we are going to find out next year whether it was Fields or him. And with that being said, the Raiders put themselves in a position where it's like they're taking best player available. And someone made a very good point to me yesterday. They said, everybody screams best player available until your team actually takes them. And this is what this pick is. Brock Bowers was definitely the best player available, and I think it was a great selection for them. So B+ for the Las Vegas Raiders. New Orleans Saints, Tali Fuaga. I'm going to go A-. I think they desperately needed help at tackle. They really did. And they get the 4th tackle off the board, and some people had him as high as 2. Penning can stay at left tackle now. You're not going to have to move him. Ramczyk is kind of in that Bakhtiari status where you just don't know if he's going to be able to go this year. And the O-line has been such an issue for the Saints as years have gone on. It's just continually started to kind of decline. And Tali Fuaga is a violent run blocker. He's a good pass blocker. I think this is a great fit for the New Orleans Saints. And if you're a Saints fan, you should be really, really happy with what happened today. He is, like I said, a violent run blocker, and you needed an offensive tackle, and you didn't have to move any capital to get him. And who knows how they had these tackles graded? This could have been their number 2 tackle. At number 15, to the Indianapolis Colts. I think this caught a lot of people by surprise as well. We have Laiatu Latu, edge rusher from UCLA. So I have an A- for him. And the reason I have an A- is because the medicals scare the shit out of me. But in my opinion, he is the best edge rusher in the class, no doubt about it. If there was no medicals, he's the best defensive player in the class. And with an already kind of stacked defensive line, I think you can make the argument of we needed pass catcher. We needed corner. But I think corner a little bit more than pass catcher. But at the end of the day, it's okay, well, we need a lot of help at corner, and we could make a dent. But what if we just load our defensive line so much that we're putting so much pressure on the quarterback that we take a lot of pressure off our secondary? And I think that's the way to build a team. So if Leatu Latu does not have any medical issues, and obviously they were scared, they were not worried about it enough where they took him at 15, A- for the Indianapolis Colts. Byron Murphy to the Seattle Seahawks at 16, A. I would say next to Leatu Latu, Byron Murphy's probably the best interior or best defensive player in the draft. The fact that he fell to 16 is kind of criminal, honestly. I think a team could have traded up to get him. And this is one of those picks where it just kind of fell into the Seahawks' lap. Like, I don't want to give too much credit to the Seahawks, even though it was a great pick, just because it's like, okay, BPA, this is obviously him or I could see the pick being Dallas Turner as well. But Byron Murphy, he is just a violent player on the inside. He also is one of those players where it's like, if you watch his tape, he's on the ground a lot of the time, but like not in a bad way. Like he'll make a lot of tackles from the ground, and it's just so impressive to show his motor and strength. I think this is putting him next to Leonard Williams, Jaron Reed is just a really, really good recipe for success, and definitely a good player for a new defensive head coach who already has a pretty good secondary. Like I just think this makes their secondary even better. I think if you want to improve your secondary, drafting D-line is the way to go because it helps them get pressure on the quarterback or stop the run. 17 to the Minnesota Vikings. We have Dallas Turner. Thanks. I hate it. I hate it again. The Vikings had a great draft. Honestly, a really fucking good draft. And Dallas Turner falling to 17. I know there was some medical issues that maybe scared some teams away. He's a very young corner, and with Grenard and Andrew Van Ginkel, they have Blake Cashman, they have Ivan Pace. Like, they are loaded, like absolutely loaded. And I hate it. I hate it, especially in Brian Flores' defense. And I hate it in a good way, Vikings fans. I'm just being a fucking hater as a Bears fan. It is a great pick for you guys. And with the talent and athleticism that this guy has, what you're going to be able to scheme with him, like Brian, like I don't even want to fucking think about it. Like getting one of the best pass rushers in the class or outside linebackers in the class at 17 is a steal. Now, you did give up a third and change to get him. I don't, some people may not like the capital they gave up, but my thing is like if you can get blue chip players and you only got to trade a third, maybe like a fifth, you do that immediately. So great pick by the Minnesota Vikings. At number 18 to the Cincinnati Bengals, we have Amarius Mims. I have this as a B+. I do like the pick because I like Amarius Mims, and I think that the Bengals have a fucking fetish for huge offensive tackles. I mean, Trent Brown, Orlando Brown Jr., Amarius Mims, they're all like, I think I want to say 6'7" and up. Amarius Mims, though, is extremely, extremely athletic. And if he can be the player that everyone thinks he can be a top 5 tackle in the league. My concern is his injury history. He is extremely inexperienced. He's not raw. That is a common misconception with him. He is a very good player, and if he can stay healthy and learn to develop behind Orlando Brown Jr. and Trent Brown, he's someone that can play both tackle positions. So if either of them get hurt, you can just slide him in there. Now, I don't think you want to slide him in right away. I think you want to give him time to develop, but the whole goal is to keep Joe Burrow upright. If you can keep Joe Burrow on the field, you are in Super Bowl contention. Great pick by the Cincinnati Bengals. Number 19 to the Los Angeles Rams, Jared Verse. I love Jared Verse, and I think this was a great pick for them. Someone who is a violent, quick, and very, very high motor player. He's extremely strong. The way you see him bull rush these guys is ridiculous. I think adding to Kobe Turner and Byron Young on that defense, you're not going to replace Aaron Donald, and I know they're different positions, but this is a start. Like, you need to load up on defense. I think the Rams are possibly trying to get up to either get him or get Brock Bowers. But at the end of the day, great pick for the Rams. I think this is a pick that makes a lot of sense for them because you get an impact player now. Like, you get a player that can impact the defense now, and I think you're building for the future. This is a very interesting things to me the Rams are doing. They're building for the future, but they're also getting players that can help them immediately to try to win a Super Bowl these last couple years that you have Stafford. And if you want to talk about competitive rebuild, the Rams have been ahead of the curve for a long time. There's a lot of teams that try to do it. I think the Rams are doing it perfectly. At number 20, we have Troy Fautanu to the Pittsburgh Steelers, A-, minus the medical scare, the medical flags. Fautanu is a great pick for them because they need center help and they need tackle help. He can play all 5 positions on the offensive line, and whether you play him opposite of Broderick Jones, whether you have Dan Moore Jr. start at left tackle and have Troy Fautanu play center, overall it is a great pick. The Steelers have struggled a little bit with O-line issues over the last couple years, and this just gives such certainty to a position who kind of has had uncertainty, instability. And Fautanu, honestly, is one of the best offensive line prospects in this class. Like, he was a great player at Washington. So to be able to get him all the way at 20, I do wonder if the ACL issue kind of scared teams away, and that's why, well, I don't want to say that's why the Seahawks passed him, because if Byron Murphy is in your lap, I don't see how you take him over, how you take Fautanu over Murphy. But with that being said, I think the Steelers addressed a very big need that they had, and two big needs that they had, and now they can just find a solution at whatever spot they don't play him at. At number 21 to the Miami Dolphins, we have Chop Robinson. So I do think they could have benefited from going like Graham Barton or JPJ here. Obviously, JPJ didn't go in the first round. My thing with this pick is you want to win with speed on either side of the ball. Chop Robinson has one of the best explosive first steps I've ever seen. And putting him on a line with Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips, and you could say, well, we need a defensive interior, blah, blah, blah. Like, you have a stacked defensive interior. I just think it's not like you don't have an alpha guy. And we saw what happened with injuries with both their pass rushers last year. And we know the best teams have a deep, deep, deep pass rush rotation. So I think at this point, you are adding in a player who can make an instant impact, but also can grow behind Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips. So honestly, this is a great pick by the Dolphins. I was a little surprised they didn't go offense just with the way that they're built. But at the same time, getting a guy in Chop Robinson, who I think a lot of people thought would be a first-round pick, they just didn't know where to place him, is a good move for Miami. At 22 to the Philadelphia Eagles, they took Quinyon Mitchell. I have this as an A-. I'm really high on Mitchell. I think he is CB1B next to Terrion Arnold, who went a couple picks later. The Eagles were rumored to be really big trade-up candidates to go and get a corner, and I think with the way the board had fell, they were like, we may not even have to move capital to get our guy. And I think that's how a lot of teams felt tonight. I think a lot of teams, like certain players, they didn't have to use capital to get their guy, and I think for the first time in the NFL draft, I would say about 28 teams won. Like, 28 teams had a great first day. So, honestly, I do like the pick for Quinyon. He can play behind Slay and Bradbury, learn a lot, and then be their successor once they leave. And the 49ers, or the Eagles secondary kind of got shredded second half of last year. And I think they needed an influx of talent in the cornerback room. Yes, I think they have good depth guys, but not guys like a Quinyon Mitchell, who can be a cornerback one in the league. So Howie, once again, cooked. Great pick by the Philadelphia Eagles and not having to spend any draft capital to get up. At number 23, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars taking Brian Thomas Jr. I'm a really big fan of Brian Thomas Jr. I like him on the Jags, but I'm also very confused on the Jags. I don't know why I did this. Like, I can just say confused. I don't need to show you I'm confused. But I just am confused because it's like, at 17, maybe just take Dallas Turner. Like, I don't know if what they got was worth it to move back and take Brian Thomas Jr. Like, I guess if Brian Thomas Jr. was your plan from the jump, it makes sense. But moving off a guy like Dallas Turner, I know you have Josh Allen, I know you have Trayvon Walker, but like, just add those guys. So now you have Christian Kirk, Gabe Davis, and Brian Thomas Jr. in the receiving room. I do think this is great for Trevor Lawrence's stock, but at the same time, I'm a little bit just questioning, what, the plan is. The Jaguars are the most confusing organization, and I'm not doing this to say that I don't like the pick. I do like the pick a lot. I like Brian Thomas Jr. Their wide receiver room is just muddy, and I don't know how much I feel about having Brian Thomas Jr. be kind of the one, unless Christian Kirk's the one. That's the thing, is I don't know who's the one in this offense. I don't. So B+, good pick by the Jaguars. I'm just confused with their direction. 24 to the Detroit Lions. Trade up, we have Terrion Arnold, A. This is an A. Terrion Arnold is my favorite corner in the class, and I just think they needed corner so bad, and pairing him with a Carlton Davis and Emmanuel Mosley, their cornerback room got so much better overnight with this pick. You're not forcing Terrion to be their cornerback one. Carlton Davis can be that. And I guess my thing with this pick too is Terrion is so young. And he just plays Detroit Lions brand of football. He got better every game at Alabama. So you're getting a hungry, young, aggressive, very athletic player in Terrion Arnold who can grow a lot in this Detroit Lions defense. And this is probably one of my favorite picks from the draft. Unfortunately, even though I hate it for the Bears, this was a great pick by the Lions, who needed to improve that secondary. I also do think that if Chop Robinson was on the board, that may have been the pick. Unfortunately, he got taken by the Dolphins. But overall, Terrion Arnold to the Detroit Lions is a very, very solid pick. 25 to the Green Bay Packers. I have Jordan Morgan as a B+. So I was kind of going through Packers subreddit last night, and they did not like the pick. Jordan Morgan is a very, very good tackle. He is a very athletic, good tackle. He held his own at Arizona. So I know Packers fans think that they can just they can turn out offensive linemen later in the draft almost at an unlimited rate, but sometimes that just doesn't plan out. Did you want to go into the year with Rasheed Walker, who's a 7th-round pick, as your left tackle? I don't think so. I think Jordan Morgan is a very safe pick for the Green Bay Packers. I think they also would have benefited from Graham Barton, who went just after this pick. But overall, Jordan Morgan is a very good left tackle, and you want to protect Jordan Love. You know that this team is all about the trenches. So that's why I'm a little bit confused. I understand you could have used safety. You could have used secondary, maybe a Cooper DeJean. Maybe you can get Cooper DeJean at 41, and maybe this pick makes a lot more sense to you. But overall, I kind of had felt that the Packers were going to go offensive linemen. And at the end of the day, whenever I was doing my mock drafts, Packers fans were constantly in we would never take an O-lineman, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, why though? You guys develop guys crazy good. Imagine getting a guy this talented and being able to develop him. I never understood why you guys are so against it, but I think it's a good pick for the Packers, B+. I would have preferred Graham Barton though. At number 26, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking Graham Barton. So they have him listed as a center, and honestly, after Ryan Jensen retired, this makes a lot of sense. They needed a center, they needed interior, and Graham Barton can honestly play all 5 positions. So I have this as an A. I do really think that Graham Barton is one of the safest offensive line picks in the draft because of what he can do on the field. And the best thing is, say you end up getting a center prospect later in the draft and you really like him. You can play him at center and then move Graham Barton to guard. He truly has 5-position versatility. He is a great athlete. He played lacrosse in high school. I said that earlier about fucking Joe Alt. I meant it about Graham Barton. This is a guy who can get on the move and had a great career at Duke. So being able to get possibly the safest and one of the best 5-position versatility offensive linemen at 26 is a win in my book. This is such a Tampa Bay Buccaneers pick, and I love it. I think he'll be a great addition for them on that offensive line. At number 27, we have the Arizona Cardinals taking Darius Robinson. I have this as a B. I don't necessarily love it. I think Darius Robinson rose a lot. I think he's a good player. He can play on the interior. He can play on the edge. He's kind of like a tweener on the defensive line. And you give Jonathan Gannon another weapon, right, to work with on that defensive line that's kind of barren. And I think that's the beauty of the Cardinals pick is you can really take anyone and it would make sense. So Darius Robinson gives very high motor, very good athlete. And if you are going to take like a corner, I think they could have used a corner here though. Like I think Nate Wiggins could have been a good selection, and it's possible that you could have got Darius Robinson at pick 35. I don't know how they had their board. Maybe had him graded a lot higher than Nate Wiggins. I just think you do need cornerback help as well. So that's why I think it's still a good pick. I just would have went elsewhere. Obviously I'm not a GM, but just personal opinion. And Darius Robinson definitely can help the Cardinals now, day one, as soon as he steps in the building. So I do understand the pick. I do think they could have afforded to go developmental, even a Tyler Guyton, to kind of develop behind Jonah Williams. But overall, very good pick for the Arizona Cardinals. Like I said, a lot of these picks to me are good. Like I didn't have an issue with that. A lot of these first round picks. 28 to the Kansas City Chiefs. I have Xavier Worthy. This is a B+. And the reason I have it as a B+ is because he is small. I need to see him make sure that he can get off the line versus NFL corners. But honestly, what the fuck, Buffalo? You gave them Patrick Mahomes. You're giving them Xavier Worthy. Like, this is a team, and maybe you have Xavier Worthy graded low, so you're like, oh, we just fucking stained them. But it's just like, you play this team in the AFC Championship. You know you're competing with them every year. Even if they trade up with someone else, why be the guys to give them their weapon? Why be that team? I'm not going to keep harping on the Buffalo Bills, but with the Kansas City Chiefs, they have Rashee Rice. They have Hollywood Brown. They have Xavier Worthy. They have Travis Kelce. Like, this wide receiver room, if Rice is there and not suspended for a majority of the season, three-peat, like, I don't know. Like, I think this was one of the most predictable picks. Like, when the Chiefs got on the clock, I was like, oh, it's Worthy. Like, it's definitely Worthy, or I thought Guyton possibly. So, congrats, Mahomes. Congrats on your third fucking ring. Or fourth ring. It would be fourth ring, right? I think he has 3 now. 29 to the Dallas Cowboys, Tyler Guyton. Honestly, this is a good pick for them. I'm going to put B. The reason I'm putting B is because there is a chance he busts. He has a very, very, very good tape, but he also has really bad tape. But the Cowboys are kind of known to take swings on guys and take the high ceiling guys. So obviously you still need to get your center. You need to get a running back. Obviously you're not going to take those guys in the first round unless, maybe it was Graham Barton, who I think could have been a good pick for them. But Tyler Guyton to play at left tackle and keeping Tyler Smith in the inside at left guard is very good. Like I said, if they can develop Tyler Guyton, you just got your franchise left tackle at pick 29, which is a great pick. So overall, like I said, good pick for the Dallas Cowboys. Number 30, we have Nate Wiggins to the Baltimore Ravens. I have this as a B+ because I think Nate Wiggins is probably one of the most slept on corners in the draft. I think a lot of people had him higher early in the draft process. I think obviously the weight scared him, but he put on 10 pounds from his combine to the pro day. So I don't really worry about the frame as much. He's extremely lanky, fast, and athletic. We know the Ravens need help in that cornerback room, and Nate Wiggins can provide help day one. I think the way they're going to scheme him up is just going to be a great addition for the Ravens, and that's why I got him going B+. 31, San Francisco 49ers, Ricky Pearsall with a B. I love Pearsall, and this is probably one of the most bittersweet picks because I've had generational hate for the 49ers the last 2 years. I've slandered them to all hell. I just hate their team. I don't like them. They talk crazy every year, and they don't win shit. They go to the championship, but you also haven't won a Super Bowl since when the Cowboys last won a Super Bowl. So you're in the same boat as them, in my opinion. At the end of the day, I feel like I might have to turn. Like, I feel like Spider-Man when he's turning into Venom, like, screaming, like, what the fuck? Like, he feels the change coming. Ricky Pearsall is just a dog. I have been on the Pearsall train for a while over McConkey, over Franklin, and a lot of people are like, oh, well, if the 49ers didn't take him, he wouldn't be a first-round pick. He's worthy of a first-round pick. He really is. Like, go watch Ricky Pearsall tape, see the athleticism, see how smoothly he runs, see how he catches the ball, and tell me that's not a first-round wide receiver. Obviously, if he was in another offense outside of Florida, I think he would have thrived a little bit better. But with Deebo potentially being gone, I think this solidifies one of the wide receivers being gone. And I think Deebo Samuel is probably a Patriot these next couple days. Finally, 32. Carolina Panthers shut up one spot to take Xavier Legette, C+. I don't know why you need to trade up, and I don't necessarily love Legette here. He kind of said that he would be their pick prior, and the Panthers stayed true. I think my issue with it is, like, you want to get Bryce Young weapons. So I understand taking the receiver here. I really do. But at the same time, Legette's only had, like, one good year. He's, like, really inexperienced, and it's like, do you want to take a chance on a project when you're trying to develop your franchise quarterback? Like, I don't understand this pick. I would have rather gone Adonai Mitchell. I know there's concerns with him, and he's off a lot of teams' boards. You could have gone Troy Franklin. You could have gone Landon McConkey. I know this gives, like, a little bit of a different role. You can use him kind of like a Deebo because he is a little bit bigger like that, and you can use him on sweeps and everything. But I just don't like the idea of taking a guy who's only had one good year in the first round, especially on a team who has historically drafted pretty badly. And, I'm not as high on Deontay Johnson as others. So, yes, positionally, but player, I just don't know. So C+. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been the first round draft grades. If you don't know ball, want to know ball, be sure to subscribe. Leave a like. Let me know in your comments the favorite and least favorite pick from this draft. We'll be back with full draft grades soon enough. Have a great rest of your day. Enjoy round 2 and 3 later today.